Hey, so I see we have a new template.
We do. I decided to embrace the wording of things and then have proper places if we had something that would actually be follow up.
I see. I see. I was hoping to put some notes in, but I didn't. I figured. While it's still World Cup tournament time, that's really what you know. There's no shortage of things to talk about that are World Cup related, and cover a number of the topics that we already discussed as it is. So there seems to be a good intersection there.
Yeah, I kind of assumed. I only put a couple of things in just because I had thoughts more than anything, and most of it is just because it's what I've been struggling with for a week or so.
Gotcha. What's today? The 8th. All right. Cool. I was looking at the template, and I wasn't actually looking at the notes, and I was like, "Oh, you didn't put notes in." Oh, wait, yes, you did. Yeah. I said. Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So, I guess the topics. Okay. I will say today I'm feeling a little bit of withdrawal. Today is the first day since the tournament started that there is no match.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I just realized I didn't tune into anything today.
Yeah, I looked at my phone and I was like, for the first time. Okay, so I don't think I talked about this, and I've been meaning to talk, and it's like the day after we record, I was like, oh, why didn't I talk about the Apple Sports app? Because I have been using it, and it has been fantastic. I love how they've, there's the normal. I say it's fantastic. There's the normal, whatever teams that you're following, they show up the way you would expect, the way they have been. And, you have the today that tells you the events. It has, yesterday, upcoming, and so forth. But the additional bracket has been really delightful to use.
I've been glad that's there because I kept forgetting who was playing where and what the path could be.
Right.
And it's been nice to be able to just scroll through.
Yep. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but you can adjust the size of how much bracket is being shown. You could show the full brackets, including the group stage, all the way through.
I noticed that
and
too.
I was like, they did. I'm impressed with what they did. I mean, I feel it's like if this was an indie developer, I'd been like table stakes. But for some reason, I'm getting impressed that Apple did something that worked out really well. So if there's any criticism for that comment, yeah, I recognize that I'm excited about what would be otherwise table stakes for another developer.
One of the things that I'm really excited about that you might have noticed and not realized it, the follow or following little icon thing actually has a word beside it, and it's clear whether you have selected to follow that thing or not now, as opposed to just changing the color on the icon and you trying to remember what the color thing, whether it was filled or not. Sorry, not even color.
What are you talking about?
Did you notice that if you select a match, used to, like for a team or something like that, you would just have the little, like almost partial clock little icon?
Yes.
Just the little graphic. And it was unclear whether you were toggling it to follow or not follow unless it was during the match.
I see.
But now text is there. And so when you're not following it, you have the option to follow. And when you are following it,
yes,
it changes the shading and says following.
Yes.
So it's actually a clear user interface element again for a change.
Maybe they chose. Maybe Stephen LeMay is pretty good at designing things.
I sure hope that, it's funny, but I sure hope that this is a big indicator of usability going forward for iOS apps.
I do think that it is, because all accounts suggest that he truly understands the HIG. So that means that things that don't adhere to the HIG will be like, hey, HIG man, go read read the documentation, and things that do adhere get pass through. So like I'm hoping there's a better, like I'm expecting better quality control. And I think I would expect that the designers who are good designers for computers are happy about it. Well, I know that because John Gruber's reported that it is like Christmas out there with the changes that have been made on the design team. So
I think it's also funny that I pay far more attention to that type thing now than I ever did before because I actually consider it myself.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say like I don't think that you weren't paying attention before, but I can see how like, you're probably noticing things that might have just slipped by because now you are having to do think about these things in ways that don't necessarily affect Jesse Hart, but affect Jesse Hart's buyers of JT Hart apps.
Right.
So
we can talk more about the World Cup. I want to go back because we've missed following up on the mention of me buying that 5G. The Unify one. So I just want to mention for clarification purposes because we were both speculating a bit on how it worked. It works exactly as I thought it might. You just plug it in anywhere on the LAN side, and Ubiquiti has done stuff within the software that the controller recognizes it as a failover WAN interface, and you're good to go. You essentially get to add another WAN interface by doing so.
That's awesome.
I did kind of mess up my policy routing stuff when I first set it up. I misread the way to implement a rule. And so I was thinking when, because there's a kill switch option when you create a policy route stuff, not to get, I won't go too deep on it, but just to mention that the idea behind it being that if this rule is met, and so, stuff being routed to this interface is, like this interface suddenly goes away, you can kill internet access for whatever is in that policy, essentially. So instead of it following a failover route, it would just quit working until that interface came back up. Simple enough, but I had the rule inverted in the way I did it. And so I was essentially saying to send all traffic out the 5G interface instead of the primary interface. And then if the 5G interface went down, then it would just stop communicating. Of course, the 5G interface didn't go down. It just was sending all my traffic out that way. So, yeah, lessons learned. That was all I really had to say about it. It was just I remembered mentioning it a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to report back so that I didn't forget.
Yeah, I think I really only have like a couple of, these can be like mini topics or what I had to say about the World Cup. They're really many topics, and the first one being, I guess, going in chronological order because I do like the topics that you've chosen there, and I would like to make those full-on topics. So, the USA Belgium match. Did you watch it?
I did.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of commentary that did a better job of summarizing what I thought. But I'm going to give my thoughts first. Mm-hmm. We didn't show up to play.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, that was quite clear, just in posture, in the way everything was going. Like nothing about the team that showed up for that match felt like the same team that had been playing up to that point.
Well, it's like what? It's like I don't even know what happened.
Well, I'm pretty sure I do. So, realistically, I don't think the team mentally was at the point that they wanted to try to portray themselves at, because they essentially were defeated when they walked on the field. You could tell that they didn't believe they were going to beat Belgium, and they played like it. And there's such a huge component in sports psychology about self-defeating yourself, or self-defeatism, I guess is the way you would say it. That it doesn't necessarily even take much. It's just the acceptance that you're not as good as an opponent, or the acceptance that something is stacked against you, or whatever the case may be. But that little crack of doubt messes up the entire game plan. And we see it even more pronounced in individual effort sports than we do team sports. But team sports are just as prone to that mental lapse, if you will. And so to me, it was clear that that was what just proliferated through the team, that they felt like they could beat and did beat the teams that they were supposed to beat, and didn't think they had a chance for whatever reason to truly beat Belgium.
So sort of instead of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, like a self-fulfilling curse.
Yeah, it's the same concept. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think part of it had to do with Balogun's red card, but I don't think that was all of it, because that certainly doesn't explain things. But I think that helped put the crack there from the for the mental shift that occurred.
So let's get on about the red card at the moment, just because.
Okay. So
I believe that is a beautiful elephant in the room. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So before we go into anything else, there was one comment I saw on social media that I have to repeat that I loved, and it was mad respect for Balogun to serve his red card on the field.
I saw that as well. He served his red card suspension on the pitch. Yeah. So. Just to drive that point home, did you see the stats from his stats from the game?
I saw a couple of different things, but it was essentially 0 across the board, except for something that he had a few touches or something like that. I don't remember what the actual stats were.
So it was 89 minutes played, 0 goals, 0 assists, 2 shots, 1 on target, 7 passes completed, so 60% accuracy, only 19 touches on the ball.
Yeah, I knew it was low.
I think I saw something like he only had 5 duels or 7 duels and he lost 5 of them, something like that. I didn't write that one down, but I wrote those other ones down because I was like, wow, like it's like he wasn't even. I mean, just 19 touches in 89 minutes.
I mean, realistically, the thing that killed me is that out of all of the players on the team, there were only a couple that looked like they were really there to play. And so I don't want to say that everybody fell short, but for the most part, they fell short.
Tillman was the only one Tillman seemed to be the only one to show up. And
Bearhalter, when he was subbed on, seemed like he was there to play.
He was late.
Yeah, but that was late.
Yeah.
And the other sub seemed like he was trying to make an impact. I don't remember his name. But he at least came on and seemed to try to want to get something going.
Yeah,
I do. Go ahead.
I was just no. You go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just going to say that I also do feel bad for Matt Freese, because the blunder was bad, but it wasn't all on him. Like, there was a lot of build up to that and a lot of inconsistency in action or lack of desire to act that contributed to him then giving away that one particular goal.
I think, yeah. So,
not to say, I mean, he'd made bad choices. I'm not trying to excuse that. It's just because you can see how those choices got made because of the other bad choices leading up to it.
The first World Cup I remember watching was in '94, and it wasn't a huge amount, just because I wasn't quite as I was not quite as interested in watching it at the time. Loved playing it. Like, it was my favorite thing to my favorite outdoor activity was playing. But I didn't watch as much because I didn't quite I was 12, and so I didn't quite get all of it, or at least the beauty of watching it. I'd rather have been watching cartoons or something, maybe. I was in that phase where, like, I might have watched a cartoon. I might have watched, like, Saved by the Bell. Like, would have loved to watch Saved by the Bell. And anyway, so I remember watching some of the '98 World Cup as well, but and the 2002 same thing. But the 2006 is like I watched lots of matches, and they followed through. It's like the United States is not good in Europe, or they're not good against European teams. And I'm just like, guys, it's like I know that, but how they showed up. I mean, to be fair, the group, I didn't know Paraguay was a question mark for me, but I was like, I don't recognize Paraguay as a powerhouse. So they had an easy group stage, and it really makes me wonder, is like how random the group stages are. The group, they're supposed to be randomly assigned, and I just didn't feel that way. I didn't really say anything about it because I hadn't been watching a lot of national football tournaments to begin, in over the last few years. I would say actually before this World Cup, the last international play that I watched was the final from 4 years ago. So it was. So I felt like part of like I don't really know, but it was easy to pick up, and I was like I knew who the I know I knew Belgium was a powerhouse, and I got to a point where I was like I don't think we're going to beat Belgium, and then these guys this U.S. team, they tricked me, they got me to believe because they believed, and then 8 years ago Belgium was in the final, they lost to France, and so it's like I knew they were good, and I recognized a number of players from the Premier League, and they just kind of like I didn't mean like I started the tournament, first game, for the United States first group match, I was like, okay, let's see what happens, and when I saw how explosive they were, how intense they were, I was like, whoa, this is a team I haven't seen. And they lost to Turkey, and I was like, that was like I know that I said it on a episode that I was like, they lost better that match than they ever won in any previous match. And I still maintain that position, but it was like they were a one-trick pony because they came out, Belgium knew exactly what they needed to do. They squeezed them in the middle the entire match. They didn't let them breathe at all. Didn't give them any room to, for their quick passes. And they just didn't do anything else. They just, there were a few times you'd see them, they do a switch, across the field. And it was like, ooh, Belgium couldn't quite keep up with that. And there were a few times where, as far as like speed of the players, there was nobody that was really faster than the other, but it wasn't like Belgium was going to outrun them either. They were pretty evenly matched on speed, and there were a few times where they got away, and there were some clever balls that some clever through passes, and they just needed more of that. It was like they had one game plan and they had no idea what to do with the fact that that Belgium knew exactly how to defend against that, how to not just defend but exploit their game plan.
But I do find it interesting that there were a couple of stretches in the latter part of the first half and the first part of the second half.
The last third of the first half was the best they played, and it wasn't great.
But you could see them starting to figure out an answer to what was in front of them. And then it was like they just threw it out the window.
Yeah, I was like, I was hoping that it was like it'd be, to use the excellent quote, a game of two halves, or game of two halves, and that they would come out. It's like, hey, what we did for the last 15 minutes, that's good, and this is what we're going to do for the next 45. And that just did not happen. It was like they tried to reset and start over again. And maybe in the beginning of that first half, beginning of the second half, they were like, no, we should be doing this. And I don't know. I really don't know. So, and
I do think. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Pochettino didn't have any answers for the press after the match either. It was very like we're gonna look into this kind of thing. So, I really don't think it's him. I really don't think it's his coaching, because I'm just very curious about what the hell happened.
Yeah, I think there are two. Well, I already gave part of my theory, obviously, and that was certainly a large part of it. But I think the other part of it is that specific players were overhyped. And I don't know how much of that was by design or how much of that might have been an internal like rallying point or what, but when you focus on individual effort in some fashion and you need, quote unquote, that effort from that person and you don't get it, then that contributes to the rest of the team falling short as well. And I think that at least Pulisic and Balogun both were overhyped for what they would deliver compared to what the rest of the team could assist with if they had all been talked up some instead of it really focusing on those two, at least from the commentary that I heard.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I mean, they're good players, but I think a great example is Sweden. They had Ibrahimovic in 2002 and 2006, and I would say 2006 probably like in his prime. maybe just a little bit before. He was coming into his prime, but they didn't even qualify in 2010, I don't believe. So you need 11 good players. One or two good players just won't do it. And what I was going to say about Ibrahimovic, he is by far better than Balogun and Pulisic combined. I think right now you could, as a 44-year-old man, I found out he's 3 weeks younger than me. As a 44-year-old man, I think he could go out there and school both of them. He could do 1-on-2 and school both of them, and that's obviously not enough. So,
one of the things that has been interesting when you think about the composition of the, I guess, traditional powerhouse teams might be the way to think of it, or just the teams that have shown their general capabilities with regard to the bench. Every other country has at least 5 or 6 names that you recognize if you follow any level of club ball.
Yeah.
And the U.S. is starting to get there with a few players. I know, I think, was it Freeze that went to Man City as a backup keeper? Or was it? I never remember which one. I know one of the goalkeepers went to City. Pulisic, of course, had a stint at...
He's at Milan.
Yeah, but he had a stint in the Premier League as well.
But see,
prior to going to Milan.
Who do you remember who with?
I was trying to remember. I think it was Chelsea.
Well, I mean, Chelsea today is...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it was a great stint in the Premier League either.
Well,
but,
I was going to say,
like the
Milan today is also in the same place. They're in a rebuilding phase, you could say. Yeah, Chelsea is correct. He was there for 4 years, 98 appearances, 20 goals.
But like you were starting to get names to appear from the United States into the other leagues with some notoriety. Is kind of what I was getting at. So you weren't seeing them just go to MLS or where were the majority ending up? It was it was in the Bundesliga, I think, for more of them than anywhere else, but it was not typically Munich or Leverkusen. It was typically lower tier clubs.
Yeah, and you'd see Claudio Reyna in the 90s and early 2000s. He was at Sunderland. So I mean, we've had players in European leagues, but they've even like top European leagues, but they've never been like top teams. I think Lalas was briefly a backup at Arsenal, if I'm not mistaken, for like half a season.
That's probably overrated for him, to be honest.
Let me get that. I'm gonna see if I can find the exact stat, because it was really short.
But the general concept was that you were starting to see American names proliferate in the upper tiers more frequently than you had been seeing. You've had certain people like Tim Howard, famously was goalkeeper at Everton for a while. You certainly have had a number of them reach that level, but you never heard those individuals be the sole focus for a team prior to this team in this World Cup. Like, you would hear certain names called out more often than not, like in the era of Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey, but that was because they were representing the attacking face. They weren't talking about those players being who they really needed to show up or anything else. It was just talking about some of their aims at current records for goal scorers. Josie Altidore being another one, and so the focus and the narrative around what players needed shifted dramatically with this team, and I think that is part of what just broke the mindset.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. It seems to be the most plausible explanation. So, I hope that I don't know what Pochettino's future looks like. I don't know if they've fired him. I haven't followed it.
I thought I saw talk of them actually preparing to extend his contract, even with the loss to Belgium, because they considered it a win getting to the round of 32.
Yeah, I think so too. I'd agree with that. And considering the change in format, I was going to say in the modern, in the 21st century, the best the U.S. has done is they got knocked out in the quarterfinals in 2002, but that was with fewer teams, so a smaller tournament, fewer knockout rounds. So they got the same distance from the group stages. They got knocked out in the second knockout round, whereas this time the round of 16 is the second knockout round. So you get, I don't know, it's a thing. I do want to make a mention follow up with the Arsenal comment for Lawless, and because the Wikipedia article is does not hold back. After college and then in the 1992 Summer Olympics, Lawless trained with former Arsenal player Bob McNabb in California. This led to a trial with Arsenal during the winter of '92. It was quickly determined that Lawless did not have the quality for a first-team spot. As a result, Lawless only had a few training sessions with the reserve team before being cut after his arrival in North London.
Yeah, that tracks with my knowledge of him.
Yeah. So we talked about Balogun serving his red card suspension on pitch. I wanted to talk about just the whole. I mean, this is a bit of an what's the word I'm looking for? It's a stain on the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, when you have someone like UEFA even calling out that this is a problem, you've definitely crossed a line. Did you see that?
Yes.
Am I okay?
Yes.
I mean, overall, everything, and we talked about it a little bit at the time. Like, yes, it was a soft red, but if you were going to give it, you could see why you were going to give it, and so you uphold it, plain and simple. And I don't like how clear certain elements of favoritism have been with this tournament.
Yeah.
And it's not just this red card, but this red card was a perfect example of it.
Yeah. I'd agree. Like, I don't think he deserved the red card, and to go straight from like, nothing to VAR, VAR, and then a red card. There's some changes there, but I think an appeal was appropriate, but it came from the wrong place. It does not need to come from the White House. The appeal should have come from the U.S. Men's National Team or CONCACAF. And it's not like this hasn't been overturned before. I believe they interviewed Wayne Rooney because in the maybe the 2016 Euros, he had picked up a 3-game suspension, and they reduced the sentence to 2 games, so he would at least play in the last group stage match. So that's like one of the most recent ones. I think there was a similar thing that happened in 1960 or 62 for maybe a Euro tournament. I can't remember, but it's not never been done before. But I don't think that a politician, much less the highest office in a particular country, got involved in this in this way, shape, or form. And I think he's letting this FIFA Peace Prize go to his head.
I don't think that's the Peace Prize.
I know.
It's, the one thing that I don't remember for sure, so we might have to be corrected, but if I remember correctly, even when the appeals had happened before, the minimum 1-game suspension was enforced. And so this became even more unprecedented as a result of not enforcing the minimum 1 game, which is written into the rule.
Right.
And so I have problems with it for that as well. Now, if they had said we're going to overturn it because we believe it was issued in error, then you wouldn't have the 1-game ban. But they didn't do that. And so everything points to it just being a really manipulative piece of social engineering, for lack of any other way to describe it.
Mm-hmm. It's And so here's the thing: if the United States had beaten Belgium, it wouldn't feel like a win. Let's say
Right.
Balogun had like the game of his career, best game of the tournament against Belgium, and we rolled over them. It's all the whole world would be rooting against us. I remember seeing a map of the United States. They showed like every country or the United States had like the U.S. flag in the shape of the country, and then every other country had the Belgian flag in all of their countries. And
Yep, I saw that one too.
but then somebody commented, Somebody said, I don't think the Democratic Republic of Congo is going for Belgium, and I was like, that's fair. That's fair. So, yeah, that's I don't think that. I don't think a win. A win. It would not have. It would not have been. It would not have felt correct.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the positive from it is that it feels like the correct outcome occurred.
Yes.
Unfortunately, but I mean, we know the state of U.S. soccer. There was a quote that Lawless made about the business of youth development that had been reposted a bunch of different places, and I don't remember it verbatim, but essentially he was justifying the American model. And that tells you everything you need to know about whether the American teams will be decent with regard to football anytime in the next century. And the answer is no, because of the capitalistic model that we use for youth development.
So, can you say that I know that you were telling me something, and that message from macOS got me distracted, and I didn't quite hear what you said. I didn't quite, I didn't process.
Yeah,
what you
no
said.
worries. So we had mentioned that the outcome felt like it was the proper outcome.
Yes.
And part of that is just because we know the state of youth development and what we would call soccer here in the U.S., and it's a for-profit business model. And Lawless had made some commentary supporting the American model that I think is getting roasted pretty well on social media, because the idea is that under the American model, parents are the commodity, right? They're funding it.
Yeah.
Whereas under the European model, which works for everybody else in the world, the academies develop the player and then they earn proceeds from the player going on to play for other teams. And so the player is a resource to be developed, and then other clubs become the client and pay for that development over time. Whereas in the States, it's if the parents want to keep paying, then they might see a certain level of development. But that means that the states are geared more toward retention than they are toward actual development. And so I was saying all of that just to reinforce that, unfortunately, we know the state of soccer in this country. And so us not beating Belgium was kind of the expected result, and will be the continued expected result for some time until that model changes.
I would love to see. Maybe it's probably already out there, but some sort of an economist or analyst paper describing that, going into detail about that, because the obvious thing to me is that because it's not it's at the professional level, it's I don't even know, you got primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary. I don't even know what pentenary maybe is the word I'm looking for. I mean, we've got at least 4 other sports ahead of football in this country. And, it seemed to me like, oh, well, maybe it's because, all of our top tier athletes are going, well, that's part of it, but it's not that at all. I think that in a land of 350 million people, there's plenty of top level. We could have a whole English Premier. We could have an entire, not just English Premier League, but an entire FA in this country with the number of people we have, and the remaining athletes that there are enough to play. I think. I'm just, you made that comment, and I'm just realizing that it's like, it is absolutely the way we try to, the lack of development, the anti-development of players in this country. That's why we're not going to be able to compete with the rest of the world. We just don't develop properly.
Yeah, and it's because we come up with other ways to fund development in other sports. Like for whatever reason, at this point anyway, soccer has continued to be a if your parents choose to fund you sport. Whereas you can get all sorts of different options. And part of it is also people will dabble with sports in school, I suppose. And so the more often you have additional sports available to you in school, the more likely that development might happen as well. So there is an element of soccer not being ubiquitous across schools. It's gotten better, but it's certainly not as ubiquitous as the other typical athletic programs. American football and basketball being the predominant two, baseball obviously being a hot one. But it's really the model for development falling to either parents who choose to pay to fund that development or exposure to the sport. If you happen to be a great athlete in an area that only has, baseball or basketball to choose from, then you're not going to play soccer.
At the end of the day, people they don't think that they can make the money out of it, at the top, at the professional level, at the highest level of play that you could have. Nobody wants to try to make the money from it. Now we've got some European, we have international people coming in and doing it, like David Beckham, like big, huge investor in the MLS, and Lionel Messi, two big names, and it's sadly going to have to work. It's going to be a struggle because I don't think that investors in this country are looking to change any sort of models. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to, and so nobody is motivated to change the development process. I mean, if I think there were several teams in the tournament that had far fewer people in the population to draw from, and were able to put out teams that competed, like Cabo Verde. I think it's like, can you find Cabo Verde on a map? No, I cannot. They're in my heart. I remember seeing that meme, and I was like, yes, that was amazing. They're certainly the darling of this tournament, but a country of just over 500,000 people put out a team like that, amazing. Same thing for is it Croatia? Less than I think there are more people in Alabama than there are in Croatia, and they put a world-class team. They sent a world-class team to the World Cup. So yeah, it's not that we don't have enough athletes. So I used to say that because that seemed to be the most obvious thing, but it turns out you gotta have if I learn nothing else from Freakonomics, you gotta look a little deeper and find out what's actually driving things.
Well, I think it's good to remember too that like a country like Morocco is about 40 million people, something like that, and I mean that's a drop in the bucket compared to the population of the United States.
England is 60 million people.
Yeah.
So, I don't really have much else to say about the tournament. I do know that there's a bigger controversy brewing.
The Messi one.
The Egypt and Argentina one, and the match fixing with Argentina. Is that the Messi one?
Yeah.
The FBI.
Well, that's what I contribute to be the Messi one. So there's technically two.
Yeah, they might turn out to be linked.
Yeah, the Messi one, or what I have affectionately been referring to as the Messi one, is the
no pun intended.
Is the one that seems to do everything in Argentina's favor to promote Lionel Messi's ability to do whatever he wants.
To break records.
There have been there have been instances. The Balogun red card has been compared to a tackle by Messi that would have been worse if you reviewed it for a red.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even reviewed. And so there is some disparity, and that part of that can be attributed to the difference in officiating. We talked a little bit about that anyway. The greater conspiracy is the match fixing and everything with the Egypt-Argentina match.
Yeah, and there's like some sort of like $300 million.
Yeah, I don't know the
Dollar
details.
amount.
I just know I saw reference to it, and I saw the review for disallowing Egypt's other goal where they had to scroll back so far in time and play. Like it just...
Yeah. Yeah, there was a number of things that
Egypt was robbed, in my opinion, for sure.
I didn't see. That's I was walking into the airport and I saw that Egypt was up 2-0, and I was like, oh, and it was like 78 minutes left in the match, and I was like, whoa, this is going to be a huge upset. And I went through the security checkpoint and I was like, what? It was, they had, in the amount of time that it took me to go through security, which at the Birmingham airport with TSA pre-check is, not a lot. It's the 4 minutes, that it took for them to score, the equalizer, to go from 0 and to equalize. And then like I'm walking down to the gate where my plane is going to take off, and they're winning, and I'm like, what is happening? I was like, so I thought, it was just like, I thought there was going to be this huge upset, and then they grasped victory from the clutches of defeat, and it was going to be a nice little story. Like Argentina deserved to win, but now it's like, oh, there's all this controversy about various calls that went, calls that either went against Egypt or went in favor of Argentina, however you want to, cut that. And so that's a whole thing. But then I saw this other thing where the FBI is investigating match fixing from something with the Argentine team match fixing, and to like the sum that was attached to it was $300 million. So it might, the Egypt match might be a larger or a smaller portion of that scandal, but and I haven't looked at, I've seen it in one, I saw one article or one subject article title, and I was like, oh wow, that's something to take a look at and see what happens. But it's like, ooh, that could be a serious thing.
Yeah, it's also some kind of comment about FIFA, obvious FIFA corruption, and how they won't ever do anything in the States again because they'll get called on it eventually or something. I don't know. But it was in reference to this spurring an investigation that would end up pulling apart more of FIFA is what it comes down to.
Oh, I
sincerely doubt it. It was just, someone posting something and spitballing, but like I understand the sentiment for sure.
I expect that the FBI is saber rattling.
Yeah.
And because I've seen that there are plans for FIFA to be back here in 12 years based on how, 4 years from now, there are 3 co-hosts again, and they will be, it's Spain, Portugal, and Morocco are co-hosting the 2030 World Cup. And because it's the 100-year anniversary of the first World Cup tournament, which was hosted by Uruguay, there's going to be one match played in Uruguay, Argentina, one match in Argentina, and one match in Paraguay. And based on how the FIFA chooses or selects host countries or host locations, they wouldn't qualify for the 2038 World Cup because South America would be ruled, all of South America would be ruled out, all of Africa is ruled out, all of Europe is ruled out. So let's see, I think is somewhere in the Middle East hosting. Yeah, Saudi Arabia will be hosting the 2034 World Cup. So then I think that rules out all of Asia, and so what's left would be North America again for 2038.
Wouldn't surprise me if it happens,
because they made a lot of money here, and not to as one other data point, up in after the 1994 World Cup, the 1994 World Cup was the most uh, attended tournament to date. So, um, the United States has massive infrastructure ready to go for it. Um,
Well, I mean, if
zero
you
stadiums were built.
yeah, if you pay attention to the commentary, even from visiting fans, like the American stadiums are phenomenal. I'll give them that, but it's because they're phenomenal for all the different things they're used for,
Yes.
not because they were built for a specific team or club.
There was only one. I felt like there was only one. I don't think any of the stadiums used in the U.S. were purpose built for football. I think they've all been for American football. And there are even stadium. I remember 2 years ago being at Alliance Stadium watching an exhibition between AC Milan and Barcelona. And one, I could tell that the pitch was too small for them. And so, like, I remember them saying that, like, there was no way they could have a match in Las Vegas because it wasn't the football field, the gridiron wasn't big enough. They couldn't get a proper size pitch. So,
from what I understand, the venues they've used for this World Cup have not had that problem.
yeah, because they all meet the specifications because they are big enough, but they just didn't make Alliance Stadium big enough. So, which is actually a really nice stadium. I went in there and I was like, expecting to. I was there in August and I was expecting to just be like really hot, and it's air conditioned. I'd never done that. Never experienced that before.
So not open air?
No.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I will say I do like the ones that can be either or.
Yeah.
And so they have air conditioning for when they decide not to be open air. I really like that flexibility.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if it's open air when it's in the cooler months when they actually play their American football there. So
maybe.
Yeah. Did you have any other World Cup discussion?
No, I don't think so.
I had one more. It's not even a discussion point, but just a piece of trivia that I came across that has led to one of the most fantastic stats I've ever heard, and I hope it doesn't. I hope it holds true this tournament, and that is that so far every World Cup winner has turned out to be the team that beats the team that knocks out Japan.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I went all the way back. So Japan's first World Cup, their debut was in 1998, and every team that beat the team that knocked them out went on to win the final. And it even holds true for 2006 and 2014 when they did not make it to the knockout stages. One of the teams, so for example, in 2006, Brazil was in their group, and Italy. Let's see, what was it? Who did Italy? Italy beat Brazil, and then Brazil. So Brazil didn't knock Japan out, but because they were in their group, you could say that it counts that they were a reason that Japan did not advance, and Italy beat Brazil and went on to win the World Cup. Same thing happened in 2014. They didn't advance, and Germany beat whoever was in their group stage, one of the teams that was in their group stage. So I thought that was really interesting. So if that if that holds true, Norway is destined to win. And I gotta say, I'm about it. Like it took me a while to get into to like. I know Holland. I've always known Holland was an excellent player. I like his style of play. It reminds me of Ibrahimovic, who's one of my favorite players. And
it's just tough to rally behind somebody who plays for City.
Exactly. That's exactly. It's like it's really hard for me to be like, no, I've seen you do this to Man City too often. But you know what? When it comes to the grudge match that he has with Gabriel, who is an Arsenal player, I kind of prefer Holland. I don't know why. I don't know what it is I don't really care for about Gabriel. Otherwise, I like him, but I don't know. And one more thing, I guess, one more thing about that is that watching Belgium play the U.S., I saw Trossard do something, and I was like, I love it when you do that for Arsenal, and I was like, I did not like it tonight. So, oh man, and this overshadows everything about England beating Mexico. I was,
That was a surprise.
I
I mean, I thought they could do it, but it was a surprise.
At kickoff, my thought was this feels like 50-50. But by the end, after that red card and how successful England was parking the bus, I was just like, they absolutely deserve that win. Like they did the exact opposite of what the United States did. They met with adversity. They had to make a significant tactical change, and they were ready for it, and they were so successful. I mean,
that's what's so funny, though, is the U.S. did that win the match that got the Balogun red card. After the red card, they doubled down and did really well adapting. And it was just a completely different team that walked out on the pitch against Belgium.
I know it was not the team of the group stage and the first knockout match. So it's just England showed successfully how to do that. I mean, like you said, and the U.S. did it in their match against
Bosnia. Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Yes, Bosnia. Yeah. But I guess the thing is, Bosnia and Herzegovina they're not in that upper echelon, I suppose. I don't know. But yeah, I just remember saying at the end of the England match, I was like, or England-Mexico match, I was like, Mexico they've had 30 minutes, with stoppage time to score another goal, and they just couldn't do it. Like I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen in the Premier League where a team has they've needed to park the bus like that and defend, get into that defensive mode because they're, for fear of a counterattack. And I've seen teams just like chip away, and with that amount of time, enough time, it's inevitable that you're going to get scored on. But the fact that they were able to hold them off for that long was really impressive.
I remember seeing something posted on social media about somebody asking Tuchel why a specific player's choice was made. And he said his comment at the time was something along the lines of, well, what if you go down a man and you need to defend for a while, or something to that effect. And so the player in question obviously was key to that. And I don't remember his name because I don't remember a lot of the English players. But it proved to be some level of foresight if you look at it now, but it was really just a matter of showing what goes into decision-making on who makes the roster and knowing the level of competition at this type of tournament and being able to say, no, I need a player I can count on to help rally around if we're in a position where we have to defend really hard. And so that's, it just goes to show that a lot of times we don't give coaches enough credit for the decision making they make, especially if they leave a player out that we want them to not leave out.
Well, I gotta say, if you don't understand how effective a head coach or a manager of a team is, just look at what happened to Manchester United after Sir Alex Ferguson retired. I mean, massive. I mean, the talent was there. The talent didn't immediately leave after his retirement, but that collapse was really drastic.
Well, it's exactly why Liverpool have been so questionable about the support of Arne Slot. Because, for any Liverpool supporter, you're thinking about, well, look at what happened to United. We don't want to go down that slope. We just got back to being competitive within that same regard, obviously. There's certainly a different element there, but that has to be a component of what was playing in people's minds. And I get it. I certainly saw a huge difference between Klopp's Liverpool and Slot's Liverpool. But it's also, you come in as a first-year manager and win the Premier League. It's tough not to give you a break and try to give you some time.
Right.
Obviously, that didn't end up panning out. But We'll see how Areola does.
Yeah.
I am excited about that one. So, one other quick side note, I suppose. I did see a rumor that Klopp might take over the Germany national team.
Oh, nice.
That he might be refreshed and return to coaching.
I think that would be that's probably going to be a good. That would be a good. I would expect that to be a good fit.
Yeah. Obviously, that would be a good fit just based on his nationality and time around the team and everything else as well, I'm sure. But I think it would be a great fit for the way they typically play. I don't have anything else on proper football. You had sent me an article that I thought was kind of interesting, but I don't really have a lot of specifics about the article. More that I'm completely in line with Gruber's thoughts on the article, and that I found the counterpoints he was making resonated well from the standpoint of I don't remember the person's name who wrote the article that he was quoting, but the other person, the points they were making felt like they were trying to make points that just weren't correct. And that may be a little bit harsh. They were taking the more lackadaisical approach and chalking it up to a difference based on the tools or other patterns that just don't really exist. Is a good way to put it.
It was Drew Brunig that he was quoted in his article.
Okay. Yeah, and
I don't know.
But yeah,
so.
I don't either. But my experience with the app development and everything has shown that the desire for the developer to actually care and craft something takes care of any gap in what you can produce with the addition of AI-based tools.
It's just ironic, right? That
yeah. I mean, it's so I guess I should take a step back. So the article you sent me was Claude's criminally bad Electron Mac app is an inside job, being the headline. And I did love the headline, but
it was a great headline.
It did, like, everything in the article just helps support how bad the decision making had to be to ship this as the app when the interface that you were interfacing to builds better apps than what you shipped.
Yeah, and it's not even that it was a bad decision. It was just like I'm not going to say a corrupt decision, because this is not like, it's just, I mean, I drew parallels with design, with Alan Guy at Apple.
I would just say it's a bad decision all the way around. But then again, I think Electron and what Electron represents from an app development model is a bad design choice.
Yeah, okay. I 100% agree with that. And I just wasn't able to articulate where I was going. Like, it's not like
So what you were trying to get at was more that it wasn't shipping something functional that works was a choice. And so it wasn't necessarily that it was a bad choice. It was just
dumb,
incorrect choice for the, yeah. Okay.
It's like, it's not evil. It's just dumb.
Yeah. I can understand that rationale.
But,
but what I find hilarious is that, like, I could just give a couple of sentences to an agent and have it craft me something native that would be equal or better than what they shipped. So why didn't they do the lazy man's approach and ship that if you were going to ship an Electron app?
Yeah, because it's not even about, the whole point of Electron was to be able to build one app and ship it to multiple platforms. And that, I think that sort of what's coming is what we'll see coming in the next few years is no longer going to be really a relevant reason to develop an Electron. At that point, people are going to continue to develop an Electron and other platforms like that, simply because it's a preference. And I think the market and users will decide that's, we prefer something native. So, like, it's like, I've used Claude on the Mac, and I it just has never, so neither, you know I, there's nothing about the application that is pulling me away from ChatGPT, and same thing with Gemini, for because it does not have a native Mac app. You have to run it in the browser, so it's just like, because of that, like, I continue to use ChatGPT. There was even a point where I was like, "Hey, ChatGPT, what font are you using? Because it's beautiful." And it's like, "Dummy, it's the San Francisco font that comes with your operating system." I was like, "Yeah, fair one. That's fair." And but it's like, it's the application that I just really noticed the font because I spent enough time in there. It's like, uh, it's like, I guess I'm expecting to see it in the app, in Apple's apps, for the most part, but this third party app, I was like, "What font are you using? It's beautiful." And it's like, it's one you already know. So yeah, so
Yeah, it,
it was just like, it was fun to read that blog post, because I got there because I put NetNewsWire in front of my face now. It's been on my phone for a while, but it just has been, in the app library, and I put it on the home. I put it in a folder in the home, on the home screen, and I was like, "Ooh, let me read some Daring Fireball," and I was like, I came across that one, and I was just like, "Oh, how despicable!" It was just kind of like, it felt like, I was looking at spilt tea in that part of the that part of the world that I live in.
I think it's funny how I don't even remember the exact quote, but it was talking about how the like the development of the app is 90%. You know,
The first 90% of the code accounts for the first 90% of the development time. The remaining
yeah,
10% of
that
the
one.
code accounts for the other 90% of the development time.
Yeah, that one. Like to me, that strikes a chord more about what gets shipped than anything else. Because typically speaking, that first 90% is going to cover functionality.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least this has been my experience. Because when I build something, I'm building functionality first. Like I'm going to obsess over certain details and elements of appearance anyway. I know that just because I know me. And so I want all the functionality built where everything else I'm doing is just, I don't like the way that looks. Let me adjust it. Or I don't like the way that looks with the way that looks. Let me adjust that. Um, and I will easily spend the same amount of time on that aesthetic as I will the actual functionality build up front. And it's not that I'm spending, exorbitant amounts of time doing it, especially because I'm leveraging the power of LLMs to assist. It's that I know once I get to that point, I'll have a thought from a troubleshooting or test perspective where it's, oh, there's this edge case, see how it handles it. And I can keep playing with the way it looks during that exploration, if you will. Because with the assistance of LLMs, I can run a couple of tasks in parallel because I can tell it, I don't like the way this looks. I want to make these types of adjustments, or I want to shift something this amount. And I want you to look throughout the app to find all places where we use something similar and make similar adjustments. That's the power of leveraging an LLM to help you code, is that I don't have to go in and do a search and change where I'm using things, or have to build a bunch of cross-referenced classes or other modules and other things. I can just be explicit about this particular design thing I don't like. And so I want you to take my design preferences and do an audit pass throughout everything that we've built and give me some recommendations on where other changes might reflect this same design ethos.
Yeah.
And it's great because I can have the LLM do that while I'm playing with testing this edge case that's like, I wonder how it handles this particular thing, or I need to change how it handles this particular thing. Um, and I think part of that might just come down to, I'm willing to put that effort into developing an app where the people who shipped this were not.
Well,
And that's the simple answer.
well, at any, but I think it's even I think it's even more dumb than that. It's, it's like, it's one thing to be lazy, or, maybe lazy is not the right word, but it's one thing to be, I'm just, I can't be bothered.
Effort averse.
Effort averse, yeah. But I think it's even worse than that, because um, I don't think we've said this, but the uh, the I don't know who he is to Anthropic. What's his position there? But he's on the development team. Um, Felix Reisberg is on the development team at Anthropic for the Claude, the Mac app for Claude, and he is what was he, like, one of the founders, or senior maintainer of Electron. So it's because it's like Electron is his thing. It's something he is significantly invested in. So I love how Gruber said it. And I'll read what he said. He said it's like wondering why all the screws in a building were hammered into the walls, and finding out that the guy who oversaw construction founded and co-owns the world's biggest hammer manufacturer. I was like, yeah, because to a hammer, all the screws are the same. So it doesn't matter what kind of screw you have, Torx, hex, Phillips, flat. To a hammer, it's something you bang, and it's just probably one of the best, imageries I've ever heard to describe something. So
it's not necessarily related, but I'm often reminded when I do happen to read an article how much I love his writing.
Yeah. So you go back and it's like, okay, so you follow this guy's career. He was at Slack, and that's why Slack is an Electron app, and he was at Notion, and that's why Notion was an Electron app. It's now I think they've developed a native Mac app, so that's good, and maybe Slack will one day too.
I think Slack is too embedded with integration as an ecosystem type thing to make the effort. I know, but it's, as much as I would love it, because I do despise the Slack app with a passion. As much as I love a lot of their features, which is the reason I use it, even as an independent person who has no reason to use it.
Yeah, no.
But I despise their app with such a passion.
It's it's the worst one except for all the others.
Yeah. But I really do love some of the integrations where I can get a notification on something that I actually do care enough about to want to get that notification. And Slack is better at handling that workflow than the alternatives.
Well, when Claude's good enough to make it worthwhile, they'll make a native Mac app.
So, the funny thing is, I made this comment to Emily earlier this evening. There comes a point where lately I am inclined to just build the damn thing that I want instead of dealing with something else, because now I have experience building the things that I want. And so now I'm frustrated by the things that I want to work the way that I want them to work, not working the way I want them to work. There's no market for a lot of this other than me. I'm sure I could probably try to, find some like-minded individuals and make some sort of effort to make it a career thing. But like at a certain point, I just want certain things to actually fucking work. Yep. And it's easier for me to make the thing and make it work than it is to continue to search out and research and deal with the payment of services that don't work the way I want them to work to get, something effectively semi-working.
Yeah.
And the example I used, like, this is the hilarious thing. The example I use is I'm about ready to build my own damn call filter. Of all the things, it's like, why can't we solve bullshit spam calls where I can just say, you know what, block any 866 XXX number. Just period. I don't even want it to ring. I don't care. Block it. Why is that not something built into an app today? It's that simple. Anyway, that's my mini rant for software development for this evening.
No, I understand.
I'm sure I have more. Like we will absolutely get to more if we continue too far.
Well, you want to tell me why app review is dog shit?
I have spent this entire week trying to understand what Apple wants from me with regard to my MA Journey submission, and I still don't have an answer. And all I get every time it's rejected is the same copy and paste, reference this. All
It's infuriating,
I want,
right?
Yeah, so this last round, I even provided screenshots where I took their initial response and saying, this is what you're saying I need. Here are my screenshots with what you're saying I need labeled. Tell me what's missing. And I still got the same copy-paste bullshit response.
Maybe they got Siri to respond to you.
Probably. So what I did actually, I was working on another feature that I was not planning on releasing because this was a big enough overhaul. I wanted to somewhat contain it. I finally decided this evening, fuck it. I'm going to take this other feature that I've built and I'm going to release it too. And so I'm going to just remove the previous submission, put all of this as one whole entirely new submission, and let's just see what happens. Haven't changed a damn thing that they are talking about because all of that shit's there. All of it works. All of it is matched perfectly with the information that I can fill in about the app through App Store Connect that is not a part of the bundle. So I have no crossed wires, no broken links, nothing that's mismatched, and they still can't point me to something I'm missing. All right, fine. Here's a whole new version. Tell me what you think about this one.
Did you submit that today?
Yeah, I submitted it today. Like after 4 rejections on the same version number when I've provided evidence, it's like, unless you can tell me exactly what it is you think I'm missing, I don't really care anymore. Like, I'm just going to keep resubmitting. And then, so today it's like, all right, fine. I've already had this other version in test flight. I haven't pushed it to any other users because I've tested the feature so thoroughly. Let's just lump it all up. We'll jump from 2.1.1 to 3.1.1.
There you go.
Fuck it.
There you go.
I don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what happens.
I'm really curious. I'd like to get a text message when it gets accepted immediately tomorrow.
The thing that I find so infuriating, I submitted the 3.0.1 version originally without including a listing for the subscription, the in-app piece, because I just didn't realize I had to submit that with the app bundle. And it got approved. So I know the only thing that they can be complaining about is something about the subscription. But every single thing about the subscription matches the exact same thing I did with the Apple TV app that is approved and has been approved repeatedly without problem. So it's not like this is a completely new thing that I just, am 100% clueless about some piece that I need to put in. There is something specifically that they're claiming that I don't have that I can't find, and I don't know how to adjust. So I even requested today when I got the most recent rejection, before I decided I would just submit this whole new version, I went ahead and went through and filled out the form to request a callback and speak with App Review. Because it's like, you know what? I need somebody to explain this to me on the phone, because obviously you're just going to copy and paste the same form letter every single time you reject.
Wow. Yeah. This fits in with all of the other App Review horror stories I've heard. So.
Yep. And I get it to an extent, but the problem, or the big thing that I have, that I consider this a problem with the review process. There's commentary in the review process where you've got messages back and forth, right? So it's more akin to email, like a ticketing system, than it is commentary. So I don't want to convey the wrong sense of, it's not like it's a chat, right? They rejected it, and then in this other part of the submission process, I can view the details of what they rejected. What pisses me off is that you can respond there to provide feedback or additional info. And so I responded there to specifically say, hey, I think I have everything. Here's the screenshot showing where I think I have everything. If this isn't what you're looking for, I just need a little bit of guidance to know what I need to look for. I am willing to investigate if you can just give me some sort of guidance. The response I got was a copy and paste of the first response I got. Or I shouldn't even say it's a copy and paste. It's probably a form letter where they just click a button and attach it.
It's a text expander snippet.
Yeah. And so that pissed me off. But then I thought, all right, fine. Maybe it's just on me to go through. So I went through and clicked every single place in the review submission process that I could click and changed everything I could find to match word for word, verbatim, the exact same way that I did the Apple TV app. And then I submitted again. And I'll be damned if the rejection that I got wasn't the exact same fucking text the same time. Or yet again. That's what pisses me off. Because it's like, if I hadn't gone into this piece and you're explicitly making it out to be a tool where I can say, hey, I am just asking for a little more guidance or a little more feedback, because that's what Apple tells you. Like when you click to reply, it's, hey, you can request additional guidance, get clarity on why it was rejected. It's got this list of things. I'll be damned if that is what's happening. And that's what pisses me off.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to change version numbers and add features and do other things until they finally accept it. Like, eventually somebody's going to get tired of rejecting it and they're just going to say, fine. And then it's all going to work flawlessly and it's all going to look the same as everything else. And nobody's going to be any the wiser.
I gotta imagine it's like somewhat like the Genius Bar, where it's like, you can have an amazing experience because you got the right person who knows what they're doing. And
the thing is, I have no doubt it's some like trivial thing that I'm just not finding. I really do expect there is some sort of problem that I just can't find. But it would be easily solvable if they would just tell me, hey, when I do this, this is the problem. I'd be happy to take care of it. They just won't do that.
Yeah. Well.
And it's probably something stupid. Like I've gone through as much as I can go through so many times that I think I've tested every combination. But it's probably something stupid that on this particular device, there might be a race condition where if you tap this thing, it loads the wrong thing instead of this thing. Something really stupid that if I just had some feedback instead of the copy and paste, see this section of the developer agreement, which, sorry, I'm not fucking reading. It doesn't tell me anything about navigating the app review process. It tells me what you require, and I have everything you require documented in triplicate throughout the app and on the stuff here. Like, that's not going to tell me why you're rejecting it.
So frustrating. Oof.
That's all right. Because now this version number changes, I'm willing to bet it turns around and gets approved.
I hope so.
We'll see. I do have so the Apple TV app. I know I don't know how much we've ever talked about it. Certainly not much.
Just a little bit, but
yeah, it's essentially just a gym timer for a display type thing.
Yeah.
I finally decided I would release an iOS version of it.
Oh, cool.
That is in review. So we'll see if that has the same type of bullshit that this has. Because it might just be an iOS team thing.
Yeah.
iOS review team thing, as opposed to this is how it needs to work in general through the App Store thing. Because the tvOS version is approved. The update has been approved. Like, it's current. The iOS version is still waiting for review. So I'm really curious what happens there. Because it's the same fucking app. Like, there is no real difference. The difference is the Apple TV version, you have to upload custom assets to. The iOS version, you can select from the device. That's literally the only difference between the two. So I'm really curious what happens. Anyway, that I think does conclude my current rant. I did put one other thing in the notes.
Yeah.
As I rebuilt MA Journey, I know I had put it in the notes before that I kind of discovered I was overtraining without realizing I was overtraining.
Yeah.
And if you go back historically, we've talked about like Peak Watch and Bevel and some of the other things
Yes.
that are available. I'm taking a stab at building a health insights app just to kind of see what it looks like and whether I think I might want to actually try to build it. And that's really the entire line item. Like there is no real discussion, but I'm realizing that there could be a place for it where understanding how someone arrives at a conclusion is really vitally important. And so I'm taking a stab at a transparent version of the non-transparent guidance apps, I think is a way I would put it.
Okay. So it's about to be like, are you having any concerns about being Sherlocked by Apple? And there's a whole room. There are many rumors about the health app and Fitness Plus being overhauled significantly in the coming year.
Not really.
Yeah. Well, you said things that made me think, oh, wait, no, I think you're sitting outside of that. So,
well, I don't know that I'm necessarily sitting outside of it, depending on what they want to do, but I'm also not putting a lot of effort into it yet. It's more real quick. If I wanted to consider this, how would you present it to me? Type brainstorming. And so I do have a proof of concept, nowhere near, something that I would attempt to truly develop yet, but it's kind of twofold. It helps me, it helps me understand my current trends better, because it's me exploring how do I take my health data and make more sense of it. So it's beneficial from that perspective for me individually, but I am also realizing that there's a lot that goes into trying to account for what it means to be recovered and what it means to have an exertion level and how that relates to over time, like both historical context and improvement and all that kind of thing. It's fascinating from the standpoint of I'm learning more about where I am and where I need to be. I don't know if it's something that I really want to try to put the effort and energy into bringing to market, but it is something I'm dabbling with. So we'll see what happens.
Cool. I look forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah, I expect I will dabble with it for a couple of weeks and then make a decision. I'll put it that way. I did try. So this is funny. I did try a pass at this app thinking, well, what if I just approached the whole mindset differently and say, what if I wanted to correlate things? Like, I didn't think about how literally a computer might take that direction. And so, I have a tab that actually goes into statistical correlation from whatever two metrics that you choose. And it talks about all of the background on understanding how correlation doesn't mean anything specific and how do you understand correlations and all that kind of thing. And it's like, oh, yeah, this isn't what I meant. So good idea. I like the concept, but yeah, that's not what I planned.
Yeah. Devising unqualified opinions, applying filtered thoughts, discussing distilled feelings. Jesse and John on the line, talking life 1 week at a time. Good taste, bad takes, all the same. Real talk, always in the frame. Monday to Friday, we come through. One mic, two minds, nothing fake for you. Throw it out, break it down, turn it over, spin it around. Filtered thoughts. Jesse and John, we got a lot. Distilled feelings. Talking life, talking real things. Filtered thoughts. One more thought, then we lock it off. Listen in every week, Jesse and John, conversation deep.